Hi everyone, welcome back. We've got a new story for you today, and this one still feels unreal to tell. My name is Charles. Sometimes, betrayal doesn't reveal itself through late-night texts, odd excuses, or strange behavior. Sometimes it shows up by accident, like when you borrow your wife's car, reach between the seats for your wallet, and instead find a hidden phone. A phone filled with messages that pull the floor out from under you, showing that the woman you've loved and trusted for years has been living an entirely different life right beside you. That was how I discovered that my wife, Valentina, had been having an affair with her personal trainer, and she'd been hiding it for almost a year. I'd been married to Valentina for 7 years when this happened. 7 years I thought were built on trust, teamwork, and love. But as I sat in that parked car, scrolling through message after message, my hands shaking, I realized the truth. The person I thought I knew best had been playing a careful, deliberate game behind my back. In just a few minutes, my marriage, my memories, and my sense of reality fell apart. Valentina and I met when I was 27 and she was 24. We both lived in Portland, working regular office jobs. Me as an accountant at a regional firm, and her in human resources for a manufacturing company. We met through a mutual friend at a dinner party, hit it off right away, and started dating casually. Our chemistry was unmistakable. We liked the same music, the same weekend hikes, the same small joys that make falling in love feel effortless. About a year and a half later, we moved in together. 3 years into dating, we got engaged. The wedding was beautiful, family, friends, laughter, the works. We bought a cozy 3-bedroom house in the suburbs, with a small yard and a quiet street. Life felt steady and promising. We both worked full-time, so when we came home around 6, we cooked dinner together most nights, and sometimes watched shows or talked over wine. Our personalities balanced well. We didn't argue much. When disagreements came up, we handled them like adults. No shouting, no drama. Just conversation. We shared the same values about saving money, building a future, and keeping life simple. I trusted her completely. Why wouldn't I? There were no warning signs, no sudden changes in behavior, no late-night absences she couldn't explain. She'd never given me any reason to doubt her. I believed we were strong, that our marriage was grounded in honesty. I didn't know, of course, that while I was thinking all that, she was building a second life right under my nose. By the 5th year of our marriage, Valentina began going to the gym more often. She had always been an active person, but suddenly her commitment increased. What used to be an occasional visit turned into several sessions a week. She would come home talking about her workouts, her new routines, and the progress she was making. She seemed genuinely excited about becoming fitter and stronger. I was proud of her. I encouraged her every step of the way. I thought it was wonderful that she'd found something that made her feel good about herself. It never crossed my mind to question it. It just looked like healthy self-improvement. But slowly, without me realizing when it started, things began to change. Her gym sessions got longer. She'd tell me she was going for an hour and a half, but would return almost 3 hours later. When I'd ask, she'd explain that she'd done extra cardio, spent some time stretching, or chatted with other gym members afterward. Sometimes she'd say she stopped by for a smoothie before heading home. Her explanations always sounded reasonable. Nothing about them made me suspicious. It all just seemed like she was deeply committed to her fitness routine. Then she started talking about self-care days. At first, it was the occasional spa appointment or massage after a long week. Later, it became whole afternoons at beauty salons or entire weekends she called rejuvenation time. She'd say work was becoming more stressful and that she needed ways to relax and clear her head. Again, I didn't think twice. In today's world, people talk about mental health all the time, and I figured she was doing what she needed to take care of herself. It made sense. I noticed her schedule had changed, but I didn't see it as a problem. I assumed she was finding a better balance, focusing more on herself after years of being a devoted partner. I told myself this was normal, healthy even. Around the same time, our sex life started to fade a little. It wasn't sudden, but the difference was there. We went from being intimate several times a week to maybe once every week or two. Sometimes when I tried to initiate, Valentina would tell me she was too tired or not in the mood. She'd promise we'd make time soon, but then days would pass. I didn't panic. I chalked it up to everyday married life, stress from work, busy schedules, the natural shift that happens when the early spark settles into routine. I didn't love it, but I didn't see it as a warning sign either. Looking back now, all the little things I ignored formed a clear pattern. But when you're inside the situation and you love and trust your partner completely, the dots never seem connected. Everything feels normal until it doesn't. The truth came out on a completely ordinary Saturday in October. My car was at the mechanic for a routine service, just an oil change and tire rotation. It was supposed to be ready by evening, but I had errands to run that morning. So I asked Valentina if I could borrow her car. For a split second, she hesitated, a tiny pause that I noticed, but didn't think much of. She suggested I take an Uber instead since it was only for a few hours. I laughed and told her it would be too expensive, especially with multiple stops. After a moment, she agreed and handed me the keys. I had no idea that borrowing her car that day would change everything. I got into my wife's Honda Accord that morning, planning to run a few errands. Everything felt normal at first, just another ordinary weekend, driving Valentina's car instead of mine. About 15 minutes into the drive, I noticed something was off. The seat position felt uncomfortable enough to bother me. I pulled into a nearby parking lot and decided to fix it before continuing. I started adjusting the seat controls, forward, backward, up, down, even the lumbar support, trying to find that perfect spot. As I did, something small caught my eye. Down in the narrow space between the seat and the center console, I saw a dark object wedged deep inside. At first, I didn't think much of it. Things fall into that gap all the time: coins, pens, receipts. I leaned over and reached in to grab it, not expecting anything in particular, but I guessed it might be something my wife or one of her friends had accidentally left behind. When I pulled it out, it was a phone, a small, cheap Android model. Not the iPhone I knew Valentina used every day. It was turned off, its screen dark. I sat there staring at it for a long moment, confused. Why would Valentina have a second phone hidden in her car? Why would it be shoved between the seat and console instead of stored neatly in the glove compartment? I tried to come up with innocent explanations. Maybe it was an old work phone she'd forgotten about. Perhaps it belonged to a colleague or gym friend who'd left it there by mistake. But the longer I looked at it, the more uneasy I felt. The way I saw it didn't seem accidental. It felt deliberate. Against my better judgment, and ignoring that quiet voice telling me not to, I pressed the power button. The screen flickered to life. It was old, slow, and clearly a budget model. When the home screen appeared, I realized there was no lock screen, no password, no fingerprint protection. Anyone could open it with the default codes. I went through the home pages and apps, then tapped the messaging app, not even sure what I was looking for, just trying to figure out whose phone this was. As the app loaded, several message notifications popped up, waiting for the phone to reconnect to service. All were from a single contact, Coach M. At first glance, the messages looked harmless. Hope you're having a good morning. Thinking about you. Let me know when you're free. It could have been her gym coach checking in about workouts. But my instincts were telling me to dig deeper. As I opened the full conversation, what I saw next changed everything. The messages weren't innocent. They were explicit, detailed, sexual, raw. There were long exchanges about private moments, descriptions of their encounters, and talk about the next time they'd meet. There were photos too, ones that made my stomach turn. Pictures of Valentina, half-dressed, posing in lingerie I'd never seen her wear. Selfies taken in what looked like hotel bathrooms. Photos that were clearly meant to arouse, not just document. There was a nasty video of Valentina going down on him in what seems like a hotel room. Why he felt the need to record it and send it to her, I do not know, but I was heartbroken that my wife was doing this. And there were photos from him, shirtless gym shots, mirror selfies, pictures from his apartment, all sent with flirty or graphic captions. I kept scrolling, and the horror only deepened. The messages went back nearly a year, months of texts, plans, and secret meetings. I began noticing dates that lined up perfectly with times she told me she was at the gym, running errands, or visiting her sister. Even messages from the day before matched when she'd come home late, saying traffic had been bad. Then I saw messages where she talked about me. She didn't insult me, but her words cut deep. She wrote that I didn't understand her anymore, that Coach M makes her feel alive, that she needed what he gave her. I felt truly broken, from the details of the messages and the care they took not to be seen together. It wasn't some impulsive mistake. It was organized, planned, sustained. Sitting there in that parking lot, scrolling through message after message, I realized my wife hadn't just cheated. She had built an entire secret life. She had bought a burner phone just to keep the affair hidden. She'd crafted cover stories and routines that fooled me completely for almost a year. Suddenly, everything made sense. Her long gym sessions, her self-care weekends, her disinterest in intimacy with me, even those weekend visits to her sister, all of it was a lie. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and hollow. The woman I trusted more than anyone had been living a double life right under my nose. She'd smiled at me every morning, kissed me goodbye, and then gone to him. I don't know how long I sat there, maybe an hour, maybe more, staring at that phone, scrolling through proof of everything I never wanted to believe. My hands were shaking. My chest hurt. My mind couldn't keep up with the weight of what I'd just discovered. In that moment, my entire marriage, everything I thought I knew, collapsed around me. Eventually, I had to move. I couldn't just sit there forever, staring into nothing. I drove home on autopilot, barely noticing the road. The errands I'd planned for the day no longer mattered. I just needed to get back to the house. When I walked in, Valentina was in the living room with her laptop on her knees. She looked up casually, like everything was normal. "Did you get everything done?" she asked. "Did my car drive okay?" I didn't answer. I didn't trust myself to speak yet. I walked straight to the dining table and placed the Android phone down in front of her. The change in her face was instant. She froze like someone who'd been caught stealing. The relaxed, everyday expression she'd been wearing vanished completely. She stared at the phone, then at me, then back again. Her mouth opened slightly, but no sound came out. She looked terrified. I said nothing. I just stood there, watching her realize that I knew. Finally, she managed to whisper, "It's not what you think." The oldest line in the book. The desperate attempt to create doubt. But the messages, the photos, the calls, I had already seen enough. There was no misunderstanding here. I asked quietly, even though I was shaking inside, "Then what do you think it is, Valentina?" She didn't answer. Instead, she started crying. It wasn't guilt I saw. It was fear. She was crying for herself, not for what she'd done to us. Piece by piece, the truth started to come out. She admitted she'd met her trainer. His name was Mike, about 10 months earlier. At first, it was just workouts, she said. But then it just happened. They'd gotten close. Then it became physical. That phrase, "just happened," made my blood boil. Affairs don't just happen. They're choices. She'd chosen to meet him. Chosen to buy a secret phone. Chosen to lie to me again and again. Chosen to build a second life instead of facing whatever problems existed in our marriage. She said she stayed with him because he made her feel alive. Made her feel wanted and excited, like she hadn't felt in years. She claimed she'd never planned to leave me. She wanted both worlds, a stable marriage with me and an exciting affair with him. That, somehow, hurt even more. It wasn't that she'd fallen in love and wanted out. She'd been happy to keep deceiving me forever, as long as she got everything she wanted. Watching her cry and stumble over excuses, I realized something painful. I didn't know this woman. The person I'd married, the one I believed was kind, honest, loyal, was a story I'd made up in my head. The person sitting in front of me was a stranger who could lie every single day for almost a year. My trust was gone. Completely. I couldn't imagine believing another word from her mouth. I couldn't imagine sharing a bed, a home, or a life with someone who'd betrayed me this deeply. I told her I needed to leave, that I couldn't stay in the same house while trying to process all this. She begged me to stay, to talk, to let her explain, to believe she still loved me. But I couldn't listen anymore. I packed a bag, walked out, and drove to my friend's apartment. He'd been through a divorce 2 years earlier. He'd understand. He wouldn't ask questions. He'd give me space to breathe. Valentina called and texted me nonstop for days after everything came out. She apologized over and over, begged me to forgive her, said she'd made a terrible mistake and still loved me. She promised we could fix things if I just give her another chance. But I felt nothing while being completely numb. Her words didn't mean a thing anymore. I knew she wasn't sorry for what she'd done. She was only sorry that she'd been caught. If I hadn't borrowed her car that day, if I hadn't adjusted the seat, if I hadn't found that hidden phone, she would have kept living her double life, smiling in my face while sneaking behind my back. I stayed with a close friend for 2 weeks after finding out. Those days were heavy, filled with sleepless nights and too many thoughts. I needed time to breathe, to process everything, and to decide what to do next. Deep down, I already knew there was no saving the marriage. I couldn't share a life with someone who had betrayed me so entirely and so deliberately. My friend recommended a divorce attorney he had used during his own separation. I met with her, went through the details, and by the end of the week, I filed for legal separation. It was painful. When Valentina was served the papers, the reality finally seemed to hit her. She called me crying. She said she couldn't believe I was actually leaving, that she thought we could somehow work things out. But there was nothing left to fix. She had destroyed the trust, the respect, and the foundation that our marriage was built on. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. It was a carefully planned lie that lasted for about a year. She had looked me in the eye every day while hiding another life behind my back. That wasn't love. That was deceit. Her family was shocked when they heard we were getting divorced. They thought we had a solid marriage, that we were happy. Valentina told them a watered-down version of the story, something about a mistake or a moment of weakness. She left out the part about the burner phone, the months of secret messages, and the web of lies she'd spun to keep her affair hidden. Our friends took sides. Some stood by me, understanding that what she'd done was unforgivable. Others told me I was being too harsh, that people make mistakes, that I should consider counseling before throwing away 7 years of marriage. But those people didn't understand. This wasn't a random, emotional slip-up. It was a calculated betrayal. She hadn't just cheated. She had built an entire second life, step by step, lie by lie. As for the man she cheated with, he disappeared as soon as everything became public. He was bold enough to have an affair, but too cowardly to deal with the consequences. In the end, I didn't feel sorry for her. She destroyed our marriage with a man who didn't even care enough to stand by her. She threw away 7 years for nothing. The divorce took 9 long months to complete. In Oregon, the law required a 6-month waiting period between filing and finalization, followed by more months of negotiation, paperwork, and endless signatures. Everything had to be reviewed, divided, and approved. It felt like living in slow motion, trapped between what used to be and what would never be again. In the end, we split things fairly evenly. The house was sold because neither of us could afford to buy the other out, and honestly, neither of us wanted to live there anymore. Every corner of that house carried memories we both wanted to forget. The furniture was divided, and the savings and retirement accounts were split down the middle. Even small things, kitchenware, photo albums, books, had to be sorted. It was exhausting, both physically and emotionally. Every form I signed felt like I was erasing a piece of my old life. With each signature, the marriage I had once believed in came apart a little more. During the process, Valentina reached out several times. She sent long messages filled with apologies, regret, and promises that she changed. She said she'd made a terrible mistake, that she'd never hurt me again, and begged me to try counseling with her. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't picture trusting her again. How could I? The woman who had lied to me effortlessly for a year, who'd kept a burner phone and a secret relationship, couldn't suddenly become honest because she'd been caught. That kind of deception doesn't disappear overnight. Once you've seen how easily someone can build a second life behind your back, it's impossible to unsee it. The divorce was finalized on a gray, quiet afternoon. I signed the final documents in my lawyer's office, shook her hand, and walked out legally single after 7 years of marriage. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt empty. There was relief that the process was finally over. Grief for the love I thought we had. Anger at how she'd betrayed me. And a deep sense of uncertainty about the future. Even now, about a year and a half after discovering that hidden phone, and a year since the divorce was finalized, I'm still trying to make sense of everything. I've learned a lot. I realized that once trust is destroyed, it can't be rebuilt. The way Valentina lied, planned, and maintained her secret life showed me who she truly was. Her betrayal wasn't an accident. It was a choice repeated every single day for a year. I also learned that people who cheat often live double lives more easily than you'd imagine. Valentina acted normal every day, smiling, laughing, cooking dinner, while hiding a whole other world behind my back. It's shocking how calmly a person can live two versions of themselves. I learned that affairs usually come from unspoken unhappiness. Clearly, something was missing for Valentina. But instead of talking to me or suggesting we fix things, she chose deception. That choice killed any chance for healing. And I learned that finding out the truth by accident hurts more than any confession could. If she had told me herself, I would have still been devastated, but at least it would have shown a trace of honesty, a bit of conscience. Discovering the truth through a hidden phone made it feel like the entire marriage had been a lie from the start. But the most important lesson was about myself. I realized I deserved better than someone who lies to my face every day. Staying with her would have meant accepting behavior I knew was wrong, and losing respect for myself in the process. Leaving was painful, but it was also the only way to protect my sanity and self-worth. Some people have said I should have tried harder to save the marriage, that 7 years together deserved another chance, that people survive infidelity all the time. Maybe that's true for others, but they don't understand that what happened here wasn't just an affair. It was a complete betrayal, a web of lies, secret phones, fake stories, and deliberate deceit. That level of calculation changes everything. It wasn't a mistake made in a moment of weakness. It was a life she built in parallel to ours. And once I understood that, I knew there was no going back. No matter what we'd built, no matter how long we'd been together, I couldn't spend my future with someone capable of that kind of betrayal. I'm in a different place now. I live alone in a small apartment I rented after selling the house. It's quieter, simpler, but it feels like a space where I can finally breathe again. Work has been steady. I'm still with the same accounting firm, and honestly, the routine helps. The structure of my job gives me something solid to hold on to, especially after the chaos of the divorce. Numbers make sense, emotions don't always, but work keeps me grounded. About 8 months ago, I started seeing a therapist. She's helped me more than I expected. With her, I've learned to face everything that happened without letting it turn me bitter or make me believe that love isn't real. I'm learning how to trust again, slowly, carefully. I haven't dated seriously yet. I've been on a few first dates, but nothing that really went anywhere. Maybe I'm still guarded. Perhaps I'm just not ready to open up like that again. But I know that when the time is right, I'll be prepared to try. I remind myself often, not everyone is like Valentina. There are good people out there. I need more time to heal and to believe that I deserve someone honest and kind. Sometimes I still think about that Saturday morning, the moment everything changed. A part of me wishes I'd never found out the truth, that I could have stayed in that illusion of a happy marriage. But I know that's not real. The betrayal was happening whether I knew or not. And as painful as it was, it's better to face the truth than to live in a beautiful lie. The discovery broke me, yes, but it also freed me. It gave me the clarity I needed to make a choice, to walk away from something fake and start rebuilding my life on honesty. I deserved better. I deserved loyalty, effort, and someone willing to work through problems, not run to someone else in secret. Valentina wasn't that person, so I left. Thank you for listening. Tell me, what would you do if you ever found yourself in a situation like mine? And if this story resonates with you, share it with someone who might need to hear it too.